So, hello Internet. Welcome to part 3 on my series on my version of moral realism. And I'm pretty much done laying out my perspective on it, but in this last video, in this little 3-part series, I'm going to complain a little bit about professional philosophy from how I see things. I would say that philosophy is indispensable if in reality we didn't have a whole industry of professional philosophers who seem to be just as good at confusing the issue and avoiding constructive consensus as they may be at helping people Socrates out the important questions we should all be asking. So I don't have a whole established intellectual culture of moral realism to fall back on, unfortunately, even though I think I should. I mean, what if I had a whole established field of philosophical and scientific consensus of moral realism to appeal to compare and contrast any particular religious guru or random other belief system up against? Half the work would be done for me. Instead, a mere 56% of professional philosophers, as of a 2020 PhilPaper survey of philosophers, agree with me that moral facts are real. I'm sorry. That's an F letter grade. You need to do better than this. Way better than this. Aristotle got the ball rolling on what constituted the good life, 2,300 years ago? And this is all we have to show for ourselves? Jesus fucking Christ. A religion most often succeeds at giving us a flood of bad answers to big questions most people aren't even prepared to be asking, and professional philosophy seems too reticent to provide good answers to even a core list of pertinent human questions. As it stands now, as it seems to me at least, there are only a few cultural outliers who occupy the middle ground between these hopelessly inept extremes. Not just agree that moral facts exist, which is only a baby step of a start. That's like agreeing that math works. And that's it. But are actually on the ball, applying it to consistently meaningful effect in the culture. Just to be clear, I'm not talking about your average citizen here. You all are off the hook, assuming you all stop pretending like you know anything about metaphysics because of religion. I'm talking about all the folks that went to school for this, get their PhDs in it, and get paid to do this. This is your job, in my opinion. And most of you probably don't even think obtaining consensus on any of this is even important. And can't imagine why anyone would even think it's at all relevant. And what good are the answers if no one even knows what they are and why to care? I believe that professional philosophy ought to largely be about rigorously connecting to the public in practical and standardized ways and providing a solid foundation for all of our important cultural conversations to build upon. Let's not leave it up to Tucker Carlson and reactions to him. I don't believe this should be at all the least bit controversial, even though I know it totally is. I'm aware that one can't just lead a horse to water and expect them to drink. But if you raise a horse in that water, they won't be able to help it. Think of them as seahorses who don't even know they're swimming in solid philosophy. They just do it. People don't tend to be sharp philosophers and likely are never going to be, no matter what anyone does. Humans seem to most often be horrible introspectators. But we can equip them with the end results of good philosophy so that the culture generally benefits from even average folk having quality beliefs about the most important things in life. Do you think religion gives a shit if people are qualified to ask questions or whether or not the answers are objectively true by any meaningful standard of scientific evidence? No, they just go hog wild with it. Arbitrary culture that necessarily generates moral claims and justifications for those claims is just going to keep happening. And then we're all going to complain that culture happens when we find the results to be poor. And we're going to blame parents for not being on their game and say it's really their job to prepare their kids for the world. And then parents aren't going to step up sufficiently, as they never do, for a variety of, understandable reasons. And yet the problem remains. Responsibility for the morality of the culture is just a huge, sloppy accident that no one is really that happy with. I don't believe professional philosophy is solely to blame either, but it being on its game in its own right with the aim of consensus on proven practical cultural applications is a key ingredient to a culture being responsible for itself in this regard, in my opinion. I know these things are difficult, but I also know that by and large, most professional philosophers don't even think this is even a measure of the worth of their field of study. Their flat attitude towards this end makes their work about as important as cosplay and quilting is to the general population. Not that there's anything wrong with cosplay and quilting, or quilting your cosplay, or cosplaying as a quilter. It's all good. But professional philosophy in general seems to treat moral realism like cosmologists treat dark matter. They think it exists, maybe, but no one really knows what it really is. It's literally everywhere in human existence and doing horrendously important things for all of our theories. But we still seem almost completely clueless about how it works, or we're not willing to state definitively how we think it really works with any kind of conviction. And moral realism is in an even worse situation than dark matter, since at least just about every cosmologist out there believes dark matter is real. Only a slight majority of professional philosophers, like I said, 56%, even believe in moral realism to begin with. So despite morality being an indispensable core to human life since there was even human life, apparently we've learned just about nothing definitive about it in all these millennia. It seems to me the ancient Greek philosophers would be a bit upset to learn things have gone almost nowhere since their time. And again, what good is asking all the philosophical questions in the world if the answers don't also matter? It is ridiculous in my view that we will likely have a full theory of dark matter and dark energy that much of the public is at least somewhat aware of, then professional philosophy will have a moral realism textbook full of nearly complete and definitive theories about how to human properly. To me, that is sickening. Meanwhile, as I've said, major world religions aren't at all shy about providing this level of more or less standardized culture, with fanatical cult leaders like Jesus, Mohammed, and Joseph Smith at the honorary helms that we just hope people pay less and less attention to, I guess. But then where are we leading in a positive, proactive sense? To more just cultural accident? Europe got over a lot of religion and is famously secular, but then is swamped in lots of stupid superstitions. You can't win the culture wars without appealing to positive culture. That is obviously already working in its own right, and one would think we could do better sooner. That's all for today.